The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. People were filling the streets around the small music festival, carrying snacks, folding chairs, and blankets. The smell of popcorn and grilled food mixed with the sound of laughter and conversations. Music lovers of all ages were slowly gathering, ready to enjoy a night filled with rhythm and melodies. Amid the crowd, a 12-year-old boy walked quietly, holding a small notebook filled with music notes he had been practicing for months. His shoes were a little scuffed and his backpack was worn, but his eyes sparkled with excitement and curiosity. He had been dreaming about this day for a long time. Ever since he first heard the piano at a school concert, he had been fascinated by the way one person could create so many sounds, telling a story without saying a word. He remembered the first time he tried to play at home, sitting on the piano bench for hours, pressing keys slowly, trying to match the sounds he heard in his head. Sometimes it went wrong, sometimes right, but he never gave up. Every day after school he would practice, even when his fingers hurt or when he was tired. Music had become his safe place, the one thing that made him feel free and brave. Tonight felt different. There was an energy in the air that made his heart beat faster. The band he admired was setting up on the stage, arranging their instruments, tuning the piano, and chatting with each other. Their laughter and casual movements made them look approachable, almost like they were regular people having fun. But the boy knew they were talented, professionals who had played in big concerts before. He felt both nervous and excited, standing a little distance away, just watching them work. Every few seconds, he adjusted his backpack strap and took a deep breath. He wanted to be noticed, but he didn't want to seem pushy. He just wanted a chance to play. Around him, families spread blankets on the grass, friends shared drinks, and children ran around with glowing sticks. The band's instruments sparkled under the evening sun, and the first notes of a sound check floated through the air. Each note made the boy's stomach flutter. He could feel the music calling him, like it was inviting him to join. His fingers itched to touch the piano keys, to become part of the music that was so alive right in front of him. He remembered all the times he had imagined this moment. Sitting on the piano bench, looking at the band members, feeling the vibrations of the music, and sharing his own talent with people who really understood. Sometimes he even imagined the applause, the cheers, and the smiles from the crowd. But reality was different, and his nerves reminded him of that. What if they laughed at him? What if he wasn't good enough? What if he embarrassed himself in front of everyone? Even with those thoughts, he couldn't turn away. He took small steps closer to the stage, trying to stay calm. He watched the lead pianist move his fingers across the keys, hitting notes effortlessly, as if the piano was an extension of his body. The drummer tapped a rhythm that seemed to resonate with the boy's heartbeat. The guitarist strummed chords that made the air feel alive. He noticed how they communicated silently with each other through glances and nods, a rhythm beyond the music. It amazed him how people could work together so perfectly, creating something bigger than themselves. Nearby, a small group of teenagers laughed and recorded videos of the band with their phones. A little further, an elderly couple sat quietly holding hands, listening to the sounds and smiling at each other. The boy noticed everyone's attention on the stage, the excitement in their eyes, and he felt a mixture of fear and inspiration. He wasn't sure if he belonged there, but he knew he wanted to try. He remembered the advice his teacher once gave him. Music isn't about being perfect, the teacher had said. It's about sharing a piece of yourself. If you can do that, people will feel it. Those words ran through his mind as he adjusted the notebook in his hand. He had written down one of his favorite songs, hoping to play it if given a chance. His hands were sweaty, but his grip on the notebook was firm. He wanted to show them that he wasn't just a kid who liked music. He was someone who loved it, someone who had worked hard to reach this moment. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the stage, the boy noticed a few people starting to gather closer. The band members laughed and shared jokes, making the atmosphere feel welcoming. He took another step forward, closer than before, feeling the soft vibration of the piano under his feet. It was as if the music was encouraging him, saying, "Go ahead, you can do this." He thought about the first time he played in front of an audience, at a small school recital. His hands had shaken and he had stumbled over a few notes, but the applause at the end had made him feel like he was capable of more. That feeling came rushing back now, stronger than ever. He wanted to feel it again, but this time on a bigger stage, with people who loved music as much as he did. The boy glanced around. noticing the band members moving closer to the piano, adjusting the microphone, and chatting with each other. He felt a sudden surge of courage. Maybe, just maybe, he could ask to play. The thought made his heart pound. He took a deep breath, telling himself to be brave. He reminded himself that the worst that could happen was a polite no, and even that would be okay. But he also knew that if he didn't try, he would regret it forever. He walked closer to the lead pianist, careful not to interrupt. The pianist looked up, noticing the boy for the first time. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and the boy felt a mix of fear and hope. He swallowed hard, his throat dry, and opened his mouth to speak. Words tumbled out almost before he could control them. "Hi, can I play piano with you guys?" The pianist blinked, clearly surprised. He looked at the boy, then at the band members, who all paused and turned their attention to him. A murmur ran through the small crowd that had gathered nearby. Some people smiled, impressed by the boldness of the question. Others raised their eyebrows, unsure of what to expect. The boy felt his cheeks flush, but he didn't take a step back. He held his notebook close and nodded, hoping his seriousness would show them how much he meant it. For a moment, there was silence. The band members whispered to each other, glancing at the boy and then at the piano. The drummer tapped his sticks lightly, as if keeping time for the decision that was about to be made. The guitarist leaned against his amplifier, curious, waiting to see what would happen next. The boy's heart raced, but he reminded himself to breathe. He had come this far, and he wouldn't turn back now. The pianist finally smiled, kneeling down slightly to be at eye level with the boy. "You really want to play?" he asked, his voice kind but serious. The boy nodded again, a little more confidently this time. "Yes, I've been practicing for a long time. I know this song, and I want to play with you." The pianist looked around at the other band members. There was a brief exchange of glances, then a nod. The drummer tapped a rhythm, and the guitarist strummed a few chords, almost like a signal to start. The boy felt a rush of excitement mixed with nervousness. His hands itched to touch the piano keys, and he took a step closer, feeling the wooden bench under his feet. As he approached the piano, he noticed the curious eyes of the crowd. People were whispering, some encouraging, some skeptical, but he didn't focus on them. He focused on the piano, the band, and the music that had always been his friend. He lifted his hands above the keys, feeling their cool surface. The sounds he had imagined for so long were finally within reach. He took a deep breath, ready to show the band and himself what he could do. The evening air was filled with anticipation, a mix of excitement and calm. The sun had almost disappeared, leaving behind a soft twilight. The boy adjusted his notebook one last time and looked at the pianist, who nodded encouragingly. It was the moment he had dreamed about, the moment that could change everything. His heart pounded, but this time it wasn't fear that guided him. It was hope, courage, and the love of music that had brought him here. The boy stood there, his hands hovering above the piano keys, feeling both nervous and excited. His heart pounded in his chest like a drum, matching the quiet rhythm the band was tapping on their instruments. He had never done anything like this before, asking a professional band to let him play in front of an audience. His mind raced with thoughts of what could go wrong, yet at the same time he felt a strange calm. It was as if all the hours he had spent practicing had led to this one moment. He swallowed hard, feeling the sweat forming on his palms. The pianist leaned closer and asked again in a gentle voice if he really wanted to play. The boy nodded firmly, feeling a surge of determination. He had prepared for this, and he wasn't going to let fear stop him now. The band members exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and surprise. They could see the seriousness in his eyes and the way his small hands gripped the edges of the notebook, filled with music notes. For a brief moment, the boy wondered if he was too young or inexperienced, if he was about to make a fool of himself in front of everyone. But then he remembered all the times he had stayed after school to practice, the evenings he spent learning songs note by note, the countless hours of listening to music and trying to replicate the melodies in his head. Each memory gave him courage, reminding him that he had earned this chance. The pianist finally smiled and gestured toward the piano bench. "All right," he said, his voice warm and encouraging. "Come on up and play with us." The boy's eyes widened in disbelief, and a small gasp escaped him. The crowd around the stage noticed the interaction, and whispers of excitement began to ripple through the audience. People leaned forward, curious to see what would happen next. The boy felt a mix of nervousness and exhilaration. He had hoped for a chance, but now that it was happening, it felt surreal. He stepped closer to the piano, careful not to trip over the chords and pedals. Each step felt heavier than the last, but he reminded himself to breathe and focus. He climbed onto the bench, adjusting his small frame to sit comfortably. The keys glistened under the stage lights, and he could feel their smooth surface beneath his fingers. His hands trembled slightly, but he clenched them into fists for a moment, then opened them slowly, letting the excitement flow through him instead of fear. The pianist nodded at him, giving a reassuring smile, and the drummer tapped a gentle rhythm to set the pace. The guitarist strummed a few soft chords, and the air seemed to hum with anticipation. The boy took a deep breath and glanced down at his notebook, seeing the music notes he had written so carefully. He ran his fingers lightly over the keys, feeling the familiar texture and the coolness of the black and white keys. It was all real now. He was really going to play. He started with a simple note, testing the sound and letting it fill the space around him. The band followed, adjusting their rhythm to match the tone he set. Slowly, he began to play the song. He had practiced countless times, each note flowing from his fingertips. At first, his movements were tentative, cautious, but with every chord he gained confidence. The pianist occasionally looked at him, giving small nods of approval that encouraged him to continue. The crowd had quieted down, watching in awe as the young boy played. Some people smiled, impressed by his courage and talent. Others whispered to their friends, commenting on the surprise of seeing someone so young perform alongside experienced musicians. The boy felt a mixture of pride and nervousness, but he focused on the music, letting it guide his fingers. Every note was a conversation with the band, a way to express himself without words. As the song progressed, the boy noticed the other band members responding to his playing. The drummer adjusted his tempo slightly to match the rhythm he set. The guitarist added subtle flourishes to complement the melody, and the pianist occasionally played soft harmonies alongside him. It felt like they were listening to each other, communicating through the music. The boy had never experienced anything like this before, and it filled him with joy. He felt the music flow through him, a powerful force that made him forget the nerves and the crowd. It was just him, the piano, and the band, all creating something together. The notes felt alive, bouncing off the stage and into the audience. Some people swayed to the rhythm, others closed their eyes, lost in the sound. The boy realized that he was part of something bigger than himself, a moment of connection that music had created. For a few minutes he forgot everything else, the fear, the doubt, the thoughts of what might go wrong. He focused solely on the music, letting his fingers move instinctively across the keys. He could feel the energy of the audience, the warmth of the stage lights, and the subtle encouragement from the band members. It was a feeling he had only imagined before, and now it was real. He had never felt so alive. As he continued, he noticed small smiles from the audience, people leaning closer to watch. Some clapped quietly to the rhythm, others whispered words of encouragement. The boy felt a swell of pride but kept his attention on the piano. He wanted to make every note count, to show the band and the audience that he belonged there. The music was no longer just a song he had practiced. It was a story he was telling, a part of himself he was sharing with everyone around him. The pianist occasionally leaned closer, giving subtle guidance with small gestures. The drummer kept a steady beat that supported his playing, while the guitarist added depth to the sound. The boy felt the bond growing between them, a silent, understanding that they were making music together, not as professionals and a child, but as musicians sharing a moment. Each note he played seemed to flow more naturally, more confidently, until the music became effortless. A few people in the crowd took out their phones, capturing the moment, but the boy didn't mind. He wasn't playing for them. He was playing for the music, for himself, and for the connection he felt with the band. Every chord was a message, every melody a reflection of the countless hours he had spent practicing. He realized that this was what he had been waiting for, the moment when preparation met opportunity, and he was ready. As the song reached its climax, the boy played with more intensity, letting the notes resonate and fill the space. The drummer added subtle flourishes, the guitarist complemented the melody, and the pianist harmonized beautifully. The audience responded instinctively, some clapping along, some cheering softly. The boy felt a rush of emotion, a mix of excitement, pride, and gratitude. He had done it. He was playing with the band, and it felt incredible. When the last note faded into the evening air, there was a brief moment of silence, as if everyone needed to process what had just happened. Then the audience erupted into applause, cheers, and whistles. The boy's cheeks flushed, and he looked up, seeing the band members smiling and nodding at him with genuine admiration. The pianist gave him a thumbs up, and the drummer clapped along, adding to the celebration. The boy's heart swelled with joy, and he felt a warmth spread through his entire body. People came closer, patting him on the back, offering congratulations and asking questions about his playing. The boy felt a mixture of pride and humility, grateful for the opportunity and amazed that it had worked out so well. He had taken a risk asked to play, and it had paid off in the most incredible way. The music had brought him into a space where age, experience, and fear didn't matter. It was just him and the piano, sharing a moment with others who loved music as much as he did. The band invited him to stay for the rest of the performance, and he eagerly agreed, still catching his breath from the excitement. He felt accepted, included, and valued. The boy realized that this experience was more than just a performance. It was a validation of his hard work, courage, and passion for music. The stage, the audience, and the band had welcomed him, and he knew this was a memory he would carry forever. As the night continued and the music played on, the boy sat at the piano, now more confident and relaxed. He played alongside the band, improvising slightly and feeling the joy of collaboration. The audience responded with energy, clapping, cheering, and sometimes even laughing along with the playful notes. It was a magical evening, one that showed him that courage, preparation, and passion could create moments that were unforgettable. The boy sat at the piano, still feeling the excitement of the first few notes he had played. But as the applause continued, a little voice inside him reminded him to stay focused. He knew that playing with a band wasn't just about pressing the keys. It was about listening, feeling the rhythm, and communicating with the musicians around him. The drummer tapped a gentle beat, waiting for the boy to lead, while the guitarist strummed soft chords, watching his hands carefully. He glanced at the pianist, who was leaning back slightly, smiling but observing every movement. The boy realized he wasn't being judged unkindly. They were trying to see if he could follow the music and keep up with the flow. His nervousness returned for a moment, but he remembered the countless hours he had spent practicing alone in his room. He reminded himself that this was what he had worked for, and that gave him courage. The pianist leaned forward and whispered, "Play at your pace. Don't rush. We'll follow you." The boy nodded, grateful for the reassurance. He placed his fingers lightly on the keys and started again, this time with more control. He focused on the rhythm, letting the melody guide him, feeling the vibrations of the piano under his fingers. The drummer adjusted his beat to match the tempo he was creating, and the guitarist added small, subtle notes that blended perfectly with the sound. The crowd watched quietly, sensing that something special was happening. People began to lean forward, curious to see how a 12-year-old could handle playing with a professional band. Some looked skeptical, wondering if he could really keep up. Others smiled, inspired by his bravery to ask to join. The boy noticed their reactions but didn't let them distract him. Instead, he let the music guide him, trusting that the band would support him if he made a mistake. As the song continued, the boy started to relax more. He realized that the band wasn't trying to embarrass him. They wanted to help him shine. The pianist occasionally played harmonies alongside him, giving subtle hints and encouragement. The drummer watched his hand movements, adjusting the rhythm whenever needed, while the guitarist added layers of sound to make the music fuller. It was like they were all speaking the same language, the language of music, and he was finally a part of it. He began to feel more confident with each passing measure. His fingers moved more naturally, his timing improved, and he started adding small improvisations that fit with the melody. The audience began to notice, their eyes widening at his talent and determination. Some whispered to each other, amazed at how a young boy could play so confidently with seasoned musicians. The boy felt a warm glow inside, a mixture of pride and happiness, knowing that he was not only keeping up but contributing to the music. At one point, the drummer signaled a small pause, giving the boy a chance to take the lead completely. The boy's heart raced, but he remembered his teacher's words. Music isn't about being perfect. It's about sharing a piece of yourself. He took a deep breath and let his fingers glide across the keys, creating a melody that was entirely his own. The pianist and guitarist listened carefully, following his lead and adding just enough to support him without overpowering his sound. The audience began to respond, some clapping softly to the rhythm, others nodding their heads along with the melody. The boy felt an incredible sense of connection, not just with the band, but with everyone watching. He realized that music could bridge gaps between people, age, and experience, and he was living proof of that. Every note he played felt like a conversation, a way to express himself without words. Despite the growing confidence, a small part of him still worried. What if he made a mistake? What if he forgot the notes? The boy shook those thoughts away, remembering all the practice sessions where he had stumbled but continued anyway. Those moments had prepared him for this night. He knew that mistakes were part of learning, and even if he stumbled, the band would support him just as they already had. The pianist leaned closer, giving a subtle nod of encouragement. The boy smiled, realizing how much trust they had placed in him. That trust gave him strength. He played a few more notes with more boldness, letting the melody stretch and flow naturally. The band adjusted seamlessly, showing him that music was not just about individual skill but about working together, listening and supporting one another. The guitarist leaned in slightly, adding playful riffs that complemented the boy's melody. The drummer kept a steady beat, providing a foundation that allowed the young pianist to explore without fear. The boy's improvisation grew more confident, each note a reflection of his personality and style. He could feel the audience reacting, some smiling, some holding their breath in awe, all engaged in the moment. He remembered the first time he had tried to play in front of anyone, at a small school recital. His hands had trembled and he had made mistakes, but the applause had filled him with pride. Now playing with a real band in front of a crowd, the feeling was multiplied. The joy of music, the connection with others, and the sense of accomplishment blended into an overwhelming sense of happiness. The boy's eyes occasionally flicked to the audience, noticing their reactions. Some children were watching wide-eyed, inspired by seeing someone their age on stage. Adults whispered words of encouragement, and a few older musicians nodded in respect. It reminded him that music was universal, a language that everyone could understand and appreciate. He felt a sense of responsibility to play his best, not out of fear, but out of respect for the music and the people around him. As the song reached its middle section, the boy experimented with dynamics, playing some parts softly and letting other parts resonate loudly. The band followed his lead, creating a beautiful balance of sound. The pianist added delicate harmonies, the guitarist added subtle textures, and the drummer adjusted the rhythm to match the energy. The boy felt in control, confident, and fully immersed in the music. Every now and then he made small mistakes, hitting a note slightly off or hesitating for a beat. But the band covered smoothly, never making him feel embarrassed. Instead, they encouraged him to continue, showing him that mistakes were part of the creative process. That support made him feel safe, and his confidence grew even more. He realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was continuing despite fear, trusting yourself and others. The boy's focus deepened, his body relaxed, and he began to lose track of time. The music had taken over, and he was fully present in the moment. He experimented with new rhythms, slightly faster tempos and playful variations, all while staying connected with the band. The pianist gave approving smiles, the guitarist leaned in closer to follow his improvisations, and the drummer added little accents that matched the boy's energy. The audience responded with gentle clapping and murmurs of admiration. Some people had their phones out recording the performance, while others simply watched, captivated by the talent and courage of the young boy. He felt proud but also grateful, understanding that this opportunity was rare and special. He wanted to make the most of it, not just for himself, but for everyone sharing this moment. As the song approached its final section, the boy felt a surge of energy. He played with passion, letting the notes flow freely, creating a melody that seemed to tell a story of bravery, dedication, and joy. The band members adjusted seamlessly, following his lead and supporting him perfectly. The music built up to a climax, the sounds blending beautifully, and the boy felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything he had experienced before. When the final note lingered in the air and slowly faded, there was a moment of silence. The audience held their breath, processing what they had just witnessed. Then a wave of applause erupted, louder than before. The boy's cheeks flushed, and he looked at the band, who were smiling and giving him encouraging nods. The pianist clapped him on the shoulder, and the guitarist gave a thumbs up. The drummer tapped his sticks lightly on the snare in celebration. The boy felt a mixture of pride, relief, and joy. He had faced his fears, played with professionals, and created something beautiful. He realized that this was more than just a performance. It was a validation of all the practice, dedication, and courage he had put into music. The audience continued to cheer, some shouting words of encouragement, others whistling in appreciation. It was a moment he knew he would never forget. As the applause continued, the boy took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline slowly leave his body. The pianist whispered, "You did amazing. Ready to continue for the next song?" The boy nodded eagerly, feeling a new level of confidence and excitement. He realized that he was no longer just a young boy in the crowd. He was a musician, a part of the band, and a part of something much bigger than himself. He glanced at the audience one more time, noticing the smiles, the claps, and the sense of connection. The boy understood that courage, practice, and passion could create moments that inspired others and left a lasting impression. He felt ready to keep going, to explore more of the music, and to share his love of piano with everyone present. The night was far from over, and he knew that this experience would stay with him forever, shaping not only his skills but his confidence, his spirit, and his love for music. The boy's fingers hovered over the keys as the next song began. He felt a rush of excitement mixed with a touch of nerves. The first notes came slowly, each one resonating with a clear, bright sound that filled the evening air. The drummer started a soft rhythm, giving him space to lead while the guitarist strummed light chords in the background. The pianist added delicate harmonies, and the boy felt the music surrounding him like a warm blanket. He took a deep breath, feeling the vibration of the piano under his fingers. The notes he played were steady at first, precise and careful. As he settled into the song, he started to feel more at ease. The audience leaned in, curious to see how a young boy would handle a full performance with a professional band. He could see their eyes watching, waiting, and he felt both pressure and inspiration. Every time he glanced at the band members, they gave him small, encouraging nods, and he realized he wasn't alone in this. As the melody developed, the boy's confidence grew. His fingers moved more fluidly, adding small flourishes and variations that brought life to the song. The drummer picked up on his rhythm, adding subtle fills that complemented the melody, while the guitarist responded with creative chord variations. The pianist played alongside him, sometimes matching his tempo, sometimes adding harmonies that made the music richer. It felt like a conversation where everyone spoke the same language, a language of notes, rhythm, and feeling. The audience reacted to every change in tempo and dynamics. Some swayed with the music, others clapped along quietly. The boy felt the energy of the crowd, and it gave him courage. He began to experiment, improvising slightly, weaving his own personality into the song. Each note carried emotion, telling a story without words. The band followed him seamlessly, allowing him to express himself while maintaining harmony. At one point, he hit a chord slightly off, and for a split second, panic rushed through him. But the band didn't falter. They adjusted and continued as if nothing had happened. The boy smiled, realizing that mistakes were just part of the music. The encouragement and support from the musicians gave him the freedom to play more boldly. He leaned into the piano, fingers dancing across the keys with more confidence than before. The song began to build. He added more complex rhythms, quicker runs, and expressive chords. The drummer mirrored his energy, creating a steady yet dynamic foundation, while the guitarist played harmonies that elevated the performance. The pianist occasionally nodded in approval, subtly guiding him through transitions. The boy felt completely immersed, losing track of time, his focus entirely on the music. The audience's excitement grew with every note. Some people recorded the performance on their phones, others simply watched, captivated by the sight of a young boy commanding the piano with such skill and bravery. Children in the front row leaned forward, eyes wide with awe. Adults whispered to each other, commenting on the courage and talent on display. The boy felt proud, but he didn't let it distract him. He wanted to keep the magic of the performance alive. He played a soft, emotional section next, letting the notes linger and resonate. It was a moment of vulnerability, where the audience could feel the story he was telling. The drummer used brushes instead of sticks, creating a gentle rhythm that flowed under the piano's melody. The guitarist picked delicate notes, complementing the boy's expressive playing. Even the pianist played softly, ensuring the young boy's performance remained the focus. It was a perfect moment of harmony, and the boy felt a deep connection with the musicians and the crowd. Then he shifted to a more upbeat, playful section. His fingers moved quickly across the keys, creating intricate runs and lively patterns. The drummer responded with energetic fills, and the guitarist added bright, sparkling chords. The pianist mirrored some of his rhythms, creating a layered and rich sound. The boy felt a surge of joy and freedom, realizing that he was not only keeping up but actively contributing to the music. The audience reacted instinctively, clapping along, some standing to get a better view, their energy matching the excitement on stage. He noticed smiles and nods from the band members, subtle but meaningful signs of approval. Their encouragement pushed him to experiment further, to add small improvisations that felt natural and expressive. He started to weave in little pauses, rhythmic surprises, and gentle accents, making the song more dynamic. The drummer and guitarist adapted instantly, creating a seamless musical conversation. The pianist occasionally added harmonies that enhanced the emotion of the song. It felt like the music was alive, flowing through all of them together. The boy could feel the audience's attention fully on him. It was exhilarating and a little overwhelming, but he let it fuel his performance. Every note he played was a reflection of his dedication, practice, and love for the piano. He thought about all the evenings he had spent alone, perfecting his skills, and now it was all coming together in a beautiful, shared moment. The music became a bridge between him, the band, and the audience. As the song neared its climax, the boy added all the energy he had left, playing faster runs and more powerful chords. The drummer increased the tempo slightly, keeping a steady but lively beat. The guitarist added strong, resonant chords, while the pianist provided deep, supportive harmonies. The boy's fingers moved almost instinctively, each note carrying emotion and intention. The crowd erupted with excitement, some clapping along, others cheering, and a few standing in awe of the young musician's talent. He felt a wave of emotion wash over him. The music had taken him somewhere magical, a place where fear and doubt didn't exist, only the joy of creating and sharing. The drummer played with passion, the guitarist responded creatively, and the pianist encouraged with every chord. Together, they created a performance that was alive, vibrant, and unforgettable. Finally, the boy approached the final notes. He slowed his pace, letting each chord resonate fully. The pianist added gentle harmonies, the guitarist added soft chords, and the drummer eased into a quiet, steady beat. The audience leaned in, sensing the song was ending, holding their breath in anticipation. The boy's fingers pressed the last notes carefully, letting them linger and fade into the evening air. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then the crowd erupted into thunderous applause and cheers. People stood, clapped, and whistled, overwhelmed by the courage and skill of the young boy. The band members smiled, clapping and nodding in admiration. The pianist leaned over and gave a reassuring pat on the shoulder. The guitarist raised a hand in congratulations, and the drummer tapped his sticks in celebration. The boy's cheeks flushed, and he looked around, feeling a mixture of pride, relief, and joy. He had done it. He had played a full performance with a professional band, shared his music with an audience, and expressed himself in a way he had always dreamed of. The applause continued, and he soaked in the moment, realizing that this experience was more than just a performance. It was a memory he would carry for the rest of his life. People approached him, offering congratulations, asking questions, and expressing amazement at what they had just witnessed. Children stared in awe, inspired by someone their own age achieving something extraordinary. Adults whispered words of admiration, and even older musicians nodded in respect. The boy felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity and for the support of the band. As the crowd slowly settled, the band invited him to continue playing alongside them for the next few songs. The boy eagerly agreed, still catching his breath from the excitement of the first performance. He felt a new level of confidence knowing that he had earned a place on that stage. The audience continued to watch, some clapping along, others simply absorbing the music, all sharing in the magic of the moment. The boy sat at the piano, feeling the warmth of the stage lights and the energy of the audience. His fingers moved effortlessly, blending with the band, creating melodies that were vibrant and expressive. He experimented with dynamics, rhythms, and improvisations, feeling the thrill of making music live. The band responded with creativity and harmony, making the performance feel like a true collaboration. He looked around at the crowd, noticing their smiles, claps, and engaged faces. The boy realized that this was more than just playing the piano. It was about connection, courage, and sharing a part of himself with others. He felt proud of the hard work and dedication that had led to this moment, grateful for the support from the band, and inspired by the reactions of the audience. As the final song came to an end, the boy's heart swelled with emotion. The audience gave a standing ovation, clapping and cheering loudly. The band members smiled, patting him on the back and giving him nods of approval. The pianist whispered, "You were amazing. Keep going, keep practicing. You have something special." The boy smiled, feeling both humble and proud. He had faced his fears, shared his talent, and experienced the joy of music in a way he never thought possible. The applause continued and the boy soaked in the moment, knowing that this was a night he would never forget. He had proven to himself that courage, dedication, and passion could create moments that were unforgettable, inspiring, and full of magic. The final notes of the last song faded into the warm night air, and for a moment everything seemed still. The boy's hands hovered over the piano keys, feeling the vibration slowly settle as the room held its collective breath. Then the crowd erupted into a wave of applause, cheering and clapping with an energy that made his chest swell with pride. He looked up at the band members who were smiling, nodding, and giving him approving gestures. Their support was genuine and heartfelt, and it filled him with a sense of accomplishment he had never felt before. People began to approach the stage, some with cameras, some simply to shake his hand or pat him on the shoulder. Children looked up at him with wide eyes, inspired by what someone their age could achieve. Adults whispered words of admiration, impressed by his courage and talent. Even some seasoned musicians in the audience nodded, acknowledging the young pianist's skill and confidence. The boy felt a mixture of pride, gratitude, and disbelief. He had dreamed of this moment for so long, and now it was happening in a way he could never have imagined. The pianist leaned down and spoke quietly. "You did something special tonight. Keep practicing, keep learning. You have a gift." The boy nodded, his voice catching slightly as he said, "Thank you. I've been waiting for a chance like this." The guitarist clapped him lightly on the back, smiling, and the drummer gave him a friendly nod. The boy realized that this was more than just a performance. It was an acknowledgement of all the hard work, determination, and courage he had put into his music. As the band packed up some of their instruments, the boy took a moment to look around at the audience. People were still clapping, some standing in small groups discussing the performance. He noticed parents pointing out his courage and talent to their children, teachers whispering about how inspiring it was to see a young person step up, and musicians nodding in appreciation of his skill. The boy felt a deep connection to everyone present, as if the music had bridged the gap between ages, experiences, and backgrounds. He realized that his courage had not only allowed him to play, but had inspired others in the process. A few audience members came up to him, asking questions about how long he had been practicing, what songs he liked, and how he felt playing with a professional band. The boy answered as best he could, feeling a mix of pride and humility. He talked about the hours he had spent practicing in his room, the evenings he had spent learning new songs, and the excitement he felt when he finally got the courage to ask to play. The crowd listened intently, some nodding in encouragement, others smiling at his determination and honesty. The boy took a deep breath, trying to absorb everything that had happened. He felt the warmth of the stage lights, the soft vibrations of the piano, the lingering applause, and the presence of the band members who had welcomed him so graciously. The experience felt surreal, almost like a dream, but he knew it had all been real. He realized that courage and preparation could open doors he had only imagined, and that sometimes taking a risk was the first step toward something extraordinary. The band invited him to sit in for the rest of their set, and he eagerly agreed. As the music continued, the boy played with a sense of freedom and joy. He experimented with small improvisations, added subtle dynamics, and followed the lead of the more experienced musicians. The drummer and guitarist adjusted their playing to match his energy, while the pianist offered gentle guidance through subtle harmonies. The boy felt fully immersed in the moment, confident and supported, as if he had belonged on that stage all along. With each song, the audience responded with enthusiasm, some clapping along, some nodding their heads, and others simply smiling, caught up in the beauty of the music. The boy noticed the subtle expressions on their faces, the quiet moments of connection when people closed their eyes and let the music wash over them. He realized that what he was doing wasn't just playing notes, it was creating an experience, sharing a part of himself with everyone present. That realization filled him with pride and a deep sense of fulfillment. As the set came to a close, the boy's heart raced with emotion. He had played not just one song, but several, each one a chance to express himself, to connect with the band, and to engage with the audience. The applause that followed each song was a reminder that courage, passion, and dedication could create moments of magic. He felt grateful for the opportunity, for the support of the musicians, and for the audience that had welcomed him with open hearts. After the final note of the evening, the crowd rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, and whistling. The boy's cheeks were flushed, his chest filled with pride, and his hands ached slightly from the effort, but he didn't mind. He had achieved something incredible, something he would remember forever. The band members gathered around him, smiling and offering words of praise. The pianist leaned down and whispered, "You were amazing. Never stop playing." The guitarist and drummer nodded in agreement, their eyes reflecting admiration and respect. People continued to approach, shaking his hand, offering congratulations, and expressing how inspiring it had been to see someone so young step onto the stage with confidence. Children asked for tips, adults shared their admiration, and even other musicians offered encouragement. The boy realized that this night was not just about him. It was about the connections he had made, the inspiration he had provided, and the joy of sharing music with others. As the crowd began to disperse, the boy took a moment to reflect. He thought about all the practice sessions, the evenings spent alone at the piano, and the courage it had taken to step forward and ask to play. He realized that those efforts had led to something far greater than he had imagined. The experience had given him confidence, a sense of belonging, and a deep appreciation for the power of music to bring people together. He walked away from the stage slowly, feeling the lingering energy of the performance in his body. The applause and cheers echoed in his mind, and he smiled, knowing that he had created a memory that would stay with him for the rest of his life. The boy knew that this was only the beginning of his journey, that there would be more challenges, more opportunities, and more moments where courage and practice would intersect to create magic. As he left the festival, people waved, smiled, and complimented him, reinforcing the sense of accomplishment he felt. He walked with a light step, his head held high, and a sense of pride and excitement for the future. The boy knew that he had proven something to himself, that he could take risks, embrace opportunities, and shine even in the presence of those with more experience. That night, as he lay in bed, the images of the stage, the piano, and the smiling faces of the audience replayed in his mind. He thought about the feeling of the keys under his fingers, the sound of the notes echoing through the night, and the energy of the crowd responding to his music. He felt grateful, inspired, and determined to continue his journey, knowing that this night had changed him forever. He realized that courage wasn't just about asking to play. It was about stepping into the unknown, trusting himself and embracing the moment fully. The experience had shown him that passion and dedication could create opportunities he had never imagined. He understood that music was more than notes on a page. It was a way to connect, inspire, and express the deepest parts of himself. The boy knew that he would carry this memory with him always. The support of the band, the reactions of the audience, and the feeling of accomplishment were all reminders that courage, hard work, and passion could lead to extraordinary moments. He felt ready for the future, excited to keep playing, learning, and sharing his music with the world. The night ended, But the impact of that performance stayed with him. A reminder that even a young person could make a difference, inspire others, and experience moments of pure magic through determination and talent. He drifted to sleep with a smile, the music still echoing in his mind, ready for the next chapter of his journey, knowing that courage, practice, and heart could create unforgettable memories and experiences.